This weekend, French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer all found themselves on a long train journey to Ukraine's capital, Kiev. Now, it sounds like the beginning of a murder mystery, but don't worry, the only thing that died was the critical faculties of Twitter's most energetic conspiracy theorists. News agency AFP captured the moment behind the storm when the three men met, and it has caused a storm online. So let's have a look.
Make a photo, and after that you will be allowed to have a drink. Yeah. Super.
So what did we see there? Well, the context is the three leaders meeting, sitting down, and Macron says, we'll take a photo, and after that we'll have a drink. Then you can see Merz sort of takes something off the table, and Macron puts something white under his arm. Now, it looked like Macron was sort of putting a used tissue under his arm, but that's not how the foil helmet saw it. This was from Alex Jones. So he says, breaking, it's Coke. One investigator expanded on that theory with this. It's quite a convincing video, to be honest. Obviously, they're suggesting it was a tiny spoon in Merz's hand, the one that if you're very organised, you might use to take cocaine. Potentially, it could also be one of those small skewers you sometimes get in fingers sandwiches, like these ones holding mini hamburgers together. I can imagine these being on a train to Kyiv. At any rate, it didn't take long for Russia to hop on board the rumour train. Kremlin Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova posted this on Telegram. She says, after pushing Zelensky into yet another hellish scheme to derail a settlement and prolong the bloodshed in Europe, it's like a joke. A Frenchman, an Englishman, and a German got on the train and did a line. Apparently they were so out of it, they forgot to hide the paraphernalia, a small bag and a spoon before the journalists arrived. Europe's fate is in the hands of placeholders who are dependent in every sense of the word. So sort of geopolitically dependent on the United States and personally all addicted to cocaine. The French government has responded to the cocaine claims saying this. So this says, when European unity becomes inconvenient, disinformation goes so far as to make a simple tissue look like drugs. This fake news is being spread by France's enemies, which include Alex Jones and Russia, both abroad and at home. We must remain vigilant against manipulation. So you can see this is a tissue for blowing your nose. This is European unity to build peace. So that was them fighting back in witty social media terms. Helena, I can see why Alex Jones would sort of jump on this, gets you clicks. I suppose, the Russian Foreign Ministry is now just trolling. But, it's strange, isn't it? It's strange to sort of have the Russian Foreign Ministry sort of back up this conspiracy theory, which is so obviously wrong. Well, I suppose maybe to a certain audience, it's not obviously wrong. What do you make of it?
It's funny, the justification people had for saying, well, it must be a cocaine paper bag because Emmanuel Macron hid it immediately as soon as he sat down. Like, no, he's posing for like a photograph that's going over. He doesn't want there to be like a snotty tissue on the table. It didn't seem particularly difficult to understand to me. The point you make about Russia is actually really interesting. So a lot of the interactions that Russia has had on things like social media in actually wanting specifically to spread conspiracy theories like this has always been part of their non-linear warfare strategy. This is a Vladislav Surkov special that we see, with regards to, say something similar that was recent, very, very recent. Remember the Iman Khalif stuff? A bunch of this stuff was just a conspiracy theory about her being transgender or intersex, whatever, that was spread by a Russian institution, right? Again, to try and sow discord. They know full well over in the there's a specific office they have for this kind of digital misinformation stuff over in Russia. It was controlled by the government. And they have deliberately tried to create disunity and discordance within societies that they deem to be their enemy. And of course, that's not saying that Western institutions haven't done this. They historically have done. You have to look at things that the Ned did in Yugoslavia, whatever, for example. Sowing societal discord is something that's very easy to do in the internet era, where you can see crackpots believing any old shit, like that there was a bag of cocaine on the desk that they just filmed and then also just broadcast, obviously. Like this shouldn't be something that should be difficult to understand. But in a world where knowledge travels fast and misinformation can go 3 times around the world before anybody started debunking it. This is a really good way to sow levels of lack of unity within societies that are already breaking down due to a bunch of environmental, geopolitical, and economic factors, that people are very much more amenable to conspiratorial thinking in this world. And we have seen it ever since the pandemic has come around in this way. So I'm not surprised to see Russia jump on something that should seem very, very frivolous, a bunch of conspiracy nutcases saying a bunch of dumb things on the internet. And then the official Russian account wants to drive this, try and spread these things that cause disunity, because that makes it much harder to try and create a unifying discussion or narrative or any kind of normalcy amongst the political discussion if these things come to light. Like the way in which the Imam Khalif story just kind of tore apart huge sections of the discourse in Western countries was crazy. And it was all based upon some kind of myth that was perpetuated by a Russian institution. So it's important that every single country is vigilant for these kind of disinformation campaigns everywhere, whether it's coming from the West or from the East.